I didn't notice it the first night because I don't usually sleep in silence. I've always needed background noise, some low hum to keep my thoughts from getting too loud. Usually it's YouTube, sometimes a random documentary, sometimes just a playlist I've heard 100 times before. That night, it was one of those long, boring history videos about shipwrecks. I remember setting the sleep timer, rolling over, and knocking out almost instantly. So if something happened at 3:17 a.m., I wouldn't have known. The second night, though, I woke up, not fully, just that half-conscious state where your body is still heavy, but your brain starts floating back to the surface. I remember blinking at the ceiling, feeling that dry, slightly nauseous sensation you get from bad sleep, and thinking something was off. There was light in the room, not bright, flickering, blue. At first I thought I'd forgotten to turn the TV off, which wasn't unusual, but then I remembered the sleep timer. It always shuts everything down after an hour. Always. I turned my head slowly toward the foot of the bed. The TV, it's on. Static. Not the loud, aggressive kind, just a soft, shifting gray noise. The kind that almost looks like movement if you stare at it too long. I squinted at the clock on my nightstand. 3:17 a.m. I didn't think much of it. Honestly, I just grabbed the remote, turned the TV off, and rolled back over. I told myself maybe the app bugged out. Maybe the timer didn't trigger. Maybe I misremembered setting it. It wasn't worth thinking about. But the third night, it happened again. This time, I woke up faster, sharper, like something pulled me out of sleep, instead of me drifting out naturally. Same light, same flicker, same static, and when I checked on the clock again, it was 3:17 a.m. Exactly. That's when it started to feel less like a coincidence. I sat up this time, just staring at the screen. There's something weird about static when you're fully awake. It doesn't feel random. It feels intentional, like it's trying to form something but can't quite get there. I remember thinking I saw shapes in it, not clearly, just suggestions, movement that didn't match the rest. I muted the TV. The static kept moving, but now the room was completely silent, too silent. I don't know how long I sat there watching it, maybe a minute, maybe 5. Eventually I shook it off, turned the TV off again, and got up to unplug it from the wall. That part felt important. Like if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. I remember standing there for a second, holding the cord, feeling stupid. It's just a TV, right? Things glitch. Electronics fail. It's normal. Still, I unplugged it, went back to bed, didn't sleep well after that. The fourth night is when everything changed. I woke up before the light. That's the only way I can explain it. No flicker, no sound, just awareness. Like my body knew something was about to happen. I opened my eyes and the room was completely dark, quiet. Still, I turned my head toward the clock. 3:16 a.m. I felt this tightness in my chest. Not pain exactly, just pressure, like my body was bracing for something my brain didn't understand yet. And then, right as the clock ticked over, 3:17, the TV turned on, but it wasn't static this time. It was black, just black. The screen was on, I could tell. There was that faint glow around the edges, that soft electric hum, but the display itself was completely dark, like it was showing something that had no image. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. And then the sound started. Not static, not at first. Breathing, low, uneven, too close. It wasn't coming from the speakers in a normal way. It sounded layered, like it was inside the room, not just coming from the TV. I grabbed the remote and turned the volume down. Nothing changed. The breathing stayed exactly the same. That's when I felt it, that shift, that moment where your brain stops trying to explain things logically and just accepts that something is wrong. Seriously wrong. Okay, I said out loud, and my voice sounded thinner than I expected. Not funny. I don't know who I was talking to. Myself, I guess. The breathing stopped, just cut out completely. And for a second, I thought maybe that was it. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe I was still half dreaming. Then the screen flickered, not to static, to a room, my room. I froze. It was my bedroom. Same angle, like a camera mounted in the upper corner near the ceiling. I could see my bed, my nightstand, the door, and me sitting there staring at the TV. I felt this cold wave move through my body, like every nerve just dropped at once. It was live. It had to be. The version of me on the screen moved exactly when I moved. Same posture, same slight tilt of the head. I lifted my hand slowly. The version on the TV did the same. There was no delay, no distortion, just me. I stood up. So did he, and then the version of me on the screen stopped moving. I didn't. I took another step forward, but he stayed where he was, frozen mid-motion, still staring at the TV from inside the screen. That's when the audio came back. Not breathing. A voice. My voice. "Sit down," it said. I didn't. "Sit down," it repeated, a little sharper this time. The version of me on the screen twitched slightly, like a glitch, then slowly turned its head, not toward the TV, but toward something off-screen behind it, behind me. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. "Don't," the voice said quickly. "Don't look." Now it sounded urgent, panicked, and it was still my voice. I stared at the screen, at the version of me that wasn't moving right, that was looking at something I couldn't see. "What is that?" I whispered. The screen flickered for a split second, the image distorted, and I swear, just for a frame, I saw something standing in the corner of the room behind me. Tall, wrong, too thin in places it shouldn't be. Then the screen snapped back. My double was still there, still frozen, still looking past me. "Go back to bed," the voice said. "Right now." I didn't move, not because I was brave or thinking clearly or trying to figure anything out. I just couldn't. My body had locked up in that specific way where every option feels equally wrong, and doing nothing somehow feels like the safest one. The version of me on the screen was still staring over my shoulder, waiting. "You need to lie down," the voice said again, and it sounded tighter now, like it was running out of time. "If you don't, it's going to know you're awake." A pressure built behind my eyes, the kind you get when your brain is trying to force logic onto something that refuses to make sense. "What is it?" I asked. There was a pause, too long. When the voice came back, it was quieter. "I don't know." That hit harder than anything else. Up until that point, some part of me had been clinging to the idea that this, whatever this was, had rules, that there was something structured behind it. But that answer, that wasn't comforting. That meant I wasn't dealing with something controlled. It meant this thing was unpredictable. On the screen, my double finally moved again, slowly. Too slowly. It turned its head back toward the TV, toward me, and I saw its face clearly for the first time. It looked like me, but not right. The expression was off, not scared, not confused, just flat, like it was trying to imitate what a face is supposed to look like, and missing something important. Its mouth opened slightly, and then it spoke, but its lips didn't match the words. "Get down," the voice in the room said at the exact same time. That's what broke me out of it. Dun! I backed up, almost tripping over my own feet, and dropped onto the bed. Pulled the blanket over myself like that would do anything, like I was a kid again hiding from something in the dark. I forced myself to lie still, forced my breathing to slow down. The TV screen still flickered in front of me, casting that faint light across the room, but I didn't look at it directly anymore, just watched the glow from the corner of my vision. Seconds dragged, or minutes, I don't know. Then I heard it, not from the TV, from somewhere behind me. A shift, soft, like weight settling onto the floor. My entire body went cold. The voice spoke again, but now it sounded different, strained, like it was trying not to panic. "Don't react." Every instinct I had was screaming at me to turn around, to look, to confirm what was there. I didn't. I kept my eyes fixed on the wall. "Just stay still," it continued. "It doesn't like it when you—" The audio cut out. No static, no transition, just gone. And in that silence, I heard something else. Breathing, not from the TV this time, closer, right behind me. I felt it before I understood it, a faint movement in the air, warm and uneven, brushing against the back of my neck. My hands clenched under the blanket. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips, in my throat, in my ears. It leaned closer. I know it did, because the breathing got louder, slower, deliberate, like it was studying me. I squeezed my eyes shut, even though they were already open. Like that would make a difference. Seconds passed, then a whisper. Not my voice, not anything I recognized. It said something I couldn't fully understand, like words spoken just slightly out of sync with reality. The sounds were there, but they didn't line up into meaning, except for one thing. At the end of it, clear as anything, my name. I don't want to write it here. I don't know if that matters, but I'm not taking chances. The moment it said it, something in the room shifted again. The pressure lifted. The air felt normal, or as normal as it could feel. I stayed still for a long time after that, long enough that my muscles started to ache, long enough that I started to wonder if it was over. Eventually, slowly, I opened my eyes. The TV was off. The room was dark, quiet. I didn't move until morning. Didn't sleep either. I just lay there, staring at the wall, replaying everything over and over again, trying to find some version of it that made sense. There wasn't one. Around 7 a.m., I finally got up. The first thing I did was check the TV, still plugged in, which didn't make sense because I was sure I'd unplugged it the night before. I crouched down and looked at the outlet. The cord was firmly in place. No sign it had been pulled out at all. I just stared at it for a while. Then I checked the back of the TV. No extra devices, no cameras, nothing out of place. I even went through the settings, half expecting to find some weird app or schedule timer or anything that could explain it. Nothing. Everything normal. That almost made it worse. I didn't go to work that day. I told them I was sick, which wasn't really a lie. I spent most of the morning sitting on the couch, TV off, just thinking. Every now and then, I'd glance at it, waiting, expecting something to happen. It didn't. By the afternoon, I'd almost convinced myself it was some kind of episode. Sleep paralysis, maybe. A hallucination triggered by stress. I'd been dealing with a lot lately. It wasn't impossible. That explanation held together just well enough to be believable. Right up until I checked my phone. I had a notification, unknown number, no message, just a voicemail. I don't remember opening it. I think I just tapped it without really thinking. There was no greeting, no introduction, just audio. At first it sounded like static. Then I realized it wasn't. It was breathing. The same breathing, low, uneven, too close. I felt my chest tighten again as I held the phone to my ear, and then, after a few seconds, a voice came through, my voice, distorted slightly, like it had been compressed too many times. "You looked." I frowned. "I didn't," I said out loud, even though I knew that didn't make any sense. The recording continued. "You weren't supposed to look." "I didn't turn around," I insisted, louder now. There was a pause in the audio. Then, "It saw you anyway." My throat went dry. "What does that mean?" I whispered. No response, just breathing again. Then the message ended. I checked the length. 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Of course it was. I tried calling the number back. Didn't go through. Not even a ring. Just an immediate disconnect. Like the number didn't exist. I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone, feeling that same pressure building again. This wasn't over, not even close, and deep down, I already knew what was going to happen that night. 317 wasn't done with me. I didn't try to sleep that night. There didn't seem to be a point. By the time it hit midnight, I had every light in the apartment on, every door open, every corner visible. I even dragged a chair into the hallway so I could keep a direct line of sight into my bedroom without actually being in it. The TV stayed off. I made sure of that, unplugged it again, checked twice, then a third time just to be sure. I told myself I was in control of the situation, that if I stayed awake, if I kept everything lit, if I didn't give it the same conditions as before, then whatever happened the last few nights wouldn't be able to repeat itself. That logic held together until around 3:10. That's when the air changed. It's hard to explain, but it felt like the apartment got quieter, not silent, just muted, like something was pressing down on the space itself, dulling every sound. The hum of the fridge faded, the faint noise from outside, cars, distant voices, all of it seemed to sink into the background. I stood up from the chair slowly, my eyes locked onto the bedroom. The TV was still off, still unplugged. 3:14, I checked my phone, no signal. That didn't make sense either. I'd had full bars all night. Wi-Fi too. Now both were gone. 3:15, the lights flickered once, then stabilized. I felt my chest tighten again, that same pressure from the night before, like something was building toward a moment I couldn't stop. By 3:16, I stepped into the doorway of the bedroom. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe, or the opposite of it. The TV sat there, blank and lifeless. The cord still hung loose from the outlet. Everything looked normal, and that was the worst part, because I knew it wouldn't stay that way. The second the clock on my phone flipped 3:17, the TV turned on, even unplugged. No delay, no flicker, just instant activation. The screen lit up. And it wasn't my room this time. It was the hallway, the exact spot I'd been sitting in just seconds ago. The chair, the open doors, everything, except it was empty. I took a slow step backward. On the screen, the hallway remained still. No movement, no version of me, just absence. Then the audio kicked in. Footsteps, soft, measured, coming from somewhere off-screen. I froze. The footsteps grew louder, approaching the camera, approaching the exact position I had been in. And then they stopped, right in front of it. There was a long pause. And then, slowly, something leaned into frame. Not fully, just enough. A shoulder, too narrow, too long. The proportions didn't make sense. It tilted slightly, like it was trying to understand what it was looking at. Then the screen cut to black. The reflection hit me immediately. I could see myself again, standing in the doorway, frozen, but behind me, there was something else. I meant turn around, not this time. I didn't need to, because it stepped closer, and I saw it in the reflection. Tall, wrong, its limbs too long, bending slightly where they shouldn't. Its head tilted at an angle that felt curious, like it was studying me the same way I'd studied the screen. Its face, I couldn't fully see it, not because it was hidden, because it didn't stay the same long enough to process. Features shifting, almost forming something familiar, then slipping away again. The TV crackled, and the voice came back. My voice, but calmer now, almost resigned. "It knows you're awake." "I didn't look," I said quickly, my throat tight. I didn't turn around. "You don't have to." The thing behind me moved again, closer. I could feel it now, not just its presence, its attention, like all of it was focused directly on me. "What does it want?" I asked. There was a pause. Then, "You." Simple, flat, certain. I swallowed hard. "Why?" No answer. Instead, the screen flickered again. The image returned. My bedroom, but not as it was now. Darker, decayed, the walls stained, the furniture warped, like time had passed differently there. And in the center of the room, something was sitting on the bed, facing the TV, facing me. It looked like me perfectly, down to every detail, except for the eyes. They were locked onto the screen, unblinking. And then it smiled. Wide, too wide. Behind me, the thing shifted again, and this time, it spoke. Not through the TV and not through my phone, right next to my ear. You said my name. The words felt wrong. Not just the voice, the way they landed, like they didn't belong in the air. I didn't, I said, but it came out weak, unconvincing. You heard it, it replied. Its tone wasn't angry, it was pleased, like that had been enough. On the screen, the version of me on the bed stood up, slowly. Its movements were smoother than mine, more deliberate. It stepped toward the camera, toward the edge of the screen, and then it stopped, right at the boundary, like it couldn't cross. Yet, the voice from the TV cut in again. Urgent now. You need to leave, right now. I can't, I whispered. It's right behind me. I know. That pause again, heavy. If you stay, it replaces you. My stomach dropped. What? It learns, it copies, it waits until it's close enough. The thing behind me let out a soft sound, almost like a laugh. And then you're the one on the other side. I stared at the screen, at the version of me that wasn't me, waiting, smiling. How do I stop it? I asked. The answer came immediately. Now you don't! That hit like a wall. Ooh, run. Behind me, the thing moved again. Closer than before. I felt something brush lightly against my shoulder, and that was it. That was the moment my body finally snapped out of it. I bolted, forward, out of the bedroom, down the hallway, straight for the front door. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. I yanked the door open and stumbled out into the corridor, nearly losing my footing. The second I crossed the threshold, everything went quiet. Normal quiet. The kind I hadn't realized I'd been missing. I stood there, breathing hard, staring back at my open apartment door. Nothing followed me out. No footsteps, no awaz, just stillness. After a few seconds, I forced myself to step back inside, slowly, carefully. The apartment looked the same, lights on, doors open, silent. I walked back toward the bedroom. Each step felt heavier than the last. And when I reached the doorway, the TV was off, unplugged, like nothing had happened. I stood there for a long time, then slowly I stepped inside. The room was empty, no movement, no presence, just me, alone. But as I turned to leave, I caught something in the reflection of the TV screen. For just a second, myself, standing there, but not moving, just watching me, smiling. I didn't sleep after that, not even a little. I stayed in the living room with all the lights on, sitting on the floor with my back against the wall so I could see the entire apartment at once. Every doorway, every reflection, every shadow. Nothing else happened for the rest of the night. No sounds, no movement, no TV. And that should have felt like relief. It didn't, because by that point, I understood something I hadn't before. The silence wasn't safety. It was just waiting. Morning came slowly, gray light leaking in through the blinds, washing everything in that dull, lifeless color that makes even familiar places feel off. I got up around 8, stiff and exhausted, and walked back into the bedroom like I was entering a place I didn't recognize anymore. The TV was exactly where I left it, unplugged, dark. I stood there for a while, just looking at it, trying to decide what to do next. Smash it maybe, throw it out, get it out of the apartment entirely. That felt like the obvious move. But something about that didn't sit right, because the TV wasn't the source, it was just the window. And breaking the window doesn't mean there's nothing on the other side. I ended up leaving it. I don't know why. Maybe part of me needed to prove something, or maybe I just didn't want to risk making things worse. Instead, I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and left the apartment. I spent most of the day outside, walking, not really going anywhere specific, just staying in places where there were other people, Coffee shops, Ducano, anywhere with noise and movement and life. I kept checking my phone. No new messages, no missed calls, nothing. By the afternoon, I'd started to feel almost normal again. Almost. Like I could convince myself that what happened was contained, limited to that space, that time, 3:17. That number kept circling in my head because everything centered around it. The TV, the voicemail, the timing. It wasn't random, it was precise, intentional. And that meant it could happen again, anywhere. That realization hit me while I was sitting in a crowded cafe, surrounded by people, sunlight pouring through the windows. Nowhere felt safe after that. Not really. I went back home just before sunset. I didn't want to, but I couldn't stay out forever. The apartment was the same as I left it. Quiet, still, normal. I checked the TV again, still unplugged, still off. I even moved it, this time, dragged it out of the bedroom and into the closet, shutting the door behind it like that would make any difference. Then I waited. Hours passed. Nothing. By the time midnight rolled around, that same false sense of control started creeping back in. Maybe it was over. Maybe leaving had broken whatever pattern this thing relied on. Maybe... My phone buzzed. I flinched so hard I almost dropped it. Unknown number again. I stared at the screen for a long time before opening it. This time, it wasn't a voicemail, just a text. 3 words. Wrong place. My chest tightened immediately. What? I typed back. The response came instantly. Wrong screen. I felt that pressure again. Stronger this time. I turned slowly toward the hallway. The closet door was still closed. The TV was still inside, but something else, something I hadn't thought about, was sitting on the kitchen counter. My laptop. The screen was black, but not off. I could see the faint glow. Feel it. Like it was already on, just waiting for me to notice. I took a step toward it, then another. Every instinct told me to stop. I didn't. When I got close enough, the screen flickered. And there it was, not static, not a reflection, a live feed. My apartment, from an angle that didn't exist. High, tilted, watching. I saw myself standing there in front of the counter, phone in hand, frozen, and behind me, it stood closer than it ever had before. Clearer, too. Still wrong, still shifting, but more defined. Like it was getting better at holding its shape, learning, its head tilted slightly. And this time, it smiled first. My phone buzzed again. I didn't look away from the screen. Closer now. My hands started shaking. What do you want? I typed. The reply came slower this time, like it was thinking. Your place. I swallowed hard. You can't have it. Another pause, then, already due. On the screen, the version of me didn't move, but the thing behind me did. It leaned in, slow, deliberate, and placed something over my shoulder. A hand, too long, too thin, but solid, real. I felt it. In the same moment, cold, heavy, resting against me like it belonged there. My breath caught. The screen flickered, and for just a second, I wasn't the one standing in front of the laptop anymore. It was perfect, still, smiling, and I was the one behind it, distorted, unclear, watching, learning. My phone buzzed one last time. Say it. I don't know why I did. I knew better. I understood the pattern, the rules, but it didn't matter because it already had me. I felt my mouth open, felt the word forming before I could stop it. My name. The moment I said it, everything went black. Not like the lights went out, like something closed, cutting me off. And when it came back, I was sitting on the bed facing the TV. The room looked wrong, older, decayed, familiar, but not mine anymore. I tried to move, I couldn't. My body didn't respond, not fully, not like it used to. And then I saw it. The screen in front of me flickered on, and there I was, standing in a clean, normal apartment, alive, free. Breathing, it looked directly at me, smiled, then reached down and unplugged the TV.